All right, St. John's Affirm, this is PA, and I'm coming to you tonight from my office, just like we did with the lab back in January and February, before Lent started. So, first of all, let me just say this. We have had to bob and weave a lot this year, because as you know, COVID just keeps coming and going. And we've got a big surge happening right now. So maybe even some of you, hopefully you're on tonight. Some of you are at home quarantined. And so that's why we're doing this. We want everybody to be involved. So first of all, let me say this. Thank you for jumping on. Secondly, thank you right now for turning your screen and your camera on if you don't have it on. This is class. You're in a group. You need to be responsible to turn your camera and your sound on. If your small group guide asks you to mute your screen for a while, that's fine. But please leave your screen on the entire time, because this is a group thing, and if the screen isn't on, if the camera's not on, we don't even know that you're there. So thank you for being responsible. This is what it means to just be a person growing up. And I'm so proud of you guys for, for figuring out how to do this and get this done and do well and work hard. So we're on our last 3 sessions of Affirm. So we're going to just do it this way this week. We'll see where we're at next week, and I will let everybody know. So let's pull forward here. Let's move forward. So I'm going to do this as though we were sitting in the sanctuary, just like we were last week if you were here. So our topic for April, I told you, is what it means to be a member of a church. We don't talk about this kind of thing often, but there are bits and pieces and details that if we never talked about them, maybe we just go unnoticed and unthought about. So this is really key. Last week we talked about giving, and giving is such a key because God asks us to be givers, we said, and the church runs because of givers. It's the only way the church can get funding for being a church. So we all kind of buy into this contract, this social compact that we make with each other. It's an agreement, and we say we're gonna do our part to support the church and to be part of the church as we give of our finances, and then as we give of our time and energy and efforts as well. So tonight, we are going to go to embracing community. This is how churches function, okay? Embracing means taking hold of and supporting and saying yes to community. All right, so here's where we're going to go. The definition of community first. Kom in Greek always means with. And of course, unity, you know what that means. It's being unified together. So community means being together with unity. So if you are a part of a community that is always fighting and dividing, that community really doesn't know what it means to be a community. A community finds ways to get past disagreements and things like that and do the work of community, be community together, and to be unified and to be proud of that. So that's what it means to be a community of faith. A church is always a community of faith. Okay, so it really, as you can see my hands in the reflection, it beckons us to raise the bar, to have a higher level of expectation and the work that we do to make sure that we are together with unity, so we can be the actual definition of a community. All right, next. The Greek word in the Bible for community is koinonia, and I'm going to tell you a quick story about that in a second. Koinonia, meaning participation in something bigger than ourselves. And God is the one who creates this. God is the one who calls us out of ourselves and into a bigger community together. And that's what being in koinonia with each other means. Koinonia can be a place, a place of community. It can be a feeling, it can be an energy, and it can be a living thing. It's all of these things. So let me tell you the story real quickly. When I served a church in Brainerd, Minnesota, First Lutheran up there, we added on to the church, and we added a big fellowship hall. It was a gigantic hall that seated like 400 people. It had really high ceilings. It was just gorgeous. It had a kitchen, some storage space, all that. Anyway, when we got down to naming it, we all said, let's not just call it the fellowship hall. Let's call it something special. And I offered the word koinonia. And they said, yes, that's perfect. It's biblical. It's the Greek word for community, the place where community happens, where people of community and in community gather, where the feeling of community is there, koinonia. So pretty cool. So to this day, when they go to coffee hour, or when they go to potlucks, or when they go to meals after weddings or funerals, they go into that room, that big space, and they say, we're going to go down to koinonia. And they have koinonia together. They have community together. They participate in something much bigger than just themselves. Okay? Really important. Next, the Bible calls us to be a community of faith, to see our identity as people who are together with a unity of purpose. The purpose that we have is to be people of faith together, to be people who share the ministry of Jesus together, to be people who are called out into the world as that community to spread the faith together and to share it with other people. So the Bible specifically calls us a community as a church, and we are a community of faith, of course. We're a community of lots of other things too. We can be a community of joy. We can be a community of sharing grief. We can be a community of happiness. We can be a community of friendship and all those things. But the thing that binds it together, the thing that gives us our unity of purpose, is that we are a community of faith. We put our faith together. We put it all from inside of us out onto the table, and we say, this is the kind of community we are. We're sharing our trust in God with each other, and that gives us a unity of purpose. The key is to see that being part of community is putting an emphasis on building relationships and sharing ourselves with others to build up God's church. So let me just tell you this. I know that one of the best parts about coming to confirmation is seeing your friends. And maybe when you started confirmation, you had to make some new friends. But here, as you go along, 1, 2, 3, 4 years into it, you've made some really good friends. And guess what? When adults come to church on Sunday mornings, guess what they so often are looking as forward to as anything else? Seeing their friends. They maybe don't see them all week long, but here they get to see them. They get to sing in the choir with them. They get to sit next to them in the pew. They get to go to coffee hour and have coffee and donuts together and laugh and tell jokes and catch up. Okay? It's all about, being a community is all about building relationships. So one thing I do want to tell you is that I know some people like to just come and go and be anonymous, but really, this place buzzes when people aren't just coming and going and being anonymous. This place, this community of faith, this church, St. John's Church, buzzes when you give of yourself, when you build relationships, when you want to make friends, when you share yourself with others. That's really what it means. That's when a community really happens and buzzes, that's what's going on. People are really putting themselves out there, okay? And honestly, the church is at its strongest. The church is built up. It's at its strongest and it's growing when people really understand this, when they have this focus. And they're not just coming to take care of themselves or to fill themselves up. They're coming to also give of themselves and share themselves and be part of groups and things like that. So when you get an invitation from somebody to come to church and be part of something, to say yes to that is really important. Not to shrink back, but to say, oh yeah, that's what I need. I know I need this as a human being. So that's really key. So here's a quote from the Bible. All the believers were together and had everything in common. This is from the book of Acts. This is the very first Christian church community. This is how they functioned. All the believers were together and had everything in common. They sold property and gave to anyone who had need, so you can tell they were really sharing with each other and taking care of each other. Every day they continued to meet together. So the faith is really about being together. It's not about, growing in your faith in private. That's not part of what church is. It's about being together. They broke bread in their homes and they ate together with glad and sincere hearts, praising God and enjoying the favor of all the people. So this is how the church started. This is how they took their lead from Jesus. They said, this is what Jesus wants, so this is what we're going to do. Okay? And they really understood that a church is a community. And when you embrace community, when you put yourself out there, when you say yes to helping out, when you say yes to serving on a team, when you say yes to being a parking lot helper and directing traffic as needed, whatever is needed, and somebody, maybe me or somebody else, comes to you and says, hey, will you help out? And you say yes. That is one of the ways that you're putting yourself into this community. Look at your small group guides. They all said yes when they were asked if they would please help out. And there they are. They are totally being right there in the middle of creating community and keeping our church vibrant and alive and strong. So this is what I wanted you to know tonight. One of the big things about being part of a church is to embrace community. It's not to be private. It's not to be anonymous. It's to be together and to enjoy that, because we all as human beings need that. We really, really need that. And that's one of the key reasons people come to church. All right, everybody, here, last thing, key ways we live this out. Do more than only worship. Say yes when asked to help. Serve, not volunteer. This is about serving each other. It's not just volunteering, okay? Give, not donate. When we give, we are really giving of our hearts. We aren't just donating. Make new friendships. That's a big one. Look for ways to use the gifts, skills, and energy God gave you. God gave you gifts, and they're to be used to build up the church. Be thankful for others' help when they help you. Give help willingly when others need it. Just look for people who need help and give it. That's how you build up the church and the community. And be a joiner, not a loner. So to be a part of a community is to join, to be a joiner, not just to be a loner. Community is the opposite of individualism, so the church calls us to see ourselves as parts of a community of faithful people more than simply as individuals. This is all really important, to see ourselves as parts of a community, indispensable, more than just simply individuals. Okay, everybody, there's the presentation for tonight. Go to small group now, or you're already there, and have a good discussion. And I'll look forward to seeing you one way or the other next Wednesday. God loves you, and so do I. See you, everybody. PA.